These are my first impressions about Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred expansion. Let's get into it. For starters, let's talk about the story, because that's the first thing you encounter when you start playing the game. There's not going to be any spoilers, so you are safe if you haven't played it yet. Now, the trailer has already been released, and we've seen certain bits and pieces about the story, so I can talk about that very freely. And the whole point is that Neyrelle is gone. She is dead. And to that I can say thank fuck, because she was extremely annoying and I never really clicked with her. The whole idea of venturing into the unknown with a soul stone containing the prime evil was dumb to begin with, so I don't really know what they tried to achieve. But Blizzard certainly didn't push any buttons in me when it comes to her. Other elements of the story that were presented in this expansion were really good, if I may say so myself, or at least that's my opinion. Certain characters reappeared, certain characters died, which I kinda didn't like, or rather I was sorrowful when I saw that particular situation, but I reckon it kinda makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Also, I gotta say, I don't know where I'm getting this feeling, but I really feel like I am back in the Reaper of Souls storyline, that vibe that is, and it feels kinda cool, if I can say that, because, I don't know, nostalgia is a powerful tool, and I would say Blizzard definitely capitalized on that particular aspect. Again, these are first impressions, and I didn't really have enough time to process the whole story. I only played the game for, let's say, 20-ish hours or something like that. So yeah, maybe in the future I will think about this particular storyline more, but again, it wasn't that bad. It was certainly better than what we'd had in the previous expansion. I suppose the whole idea of stopping Mephisto and you running from one end of the map to the other in order to find ways to stop him builds that particular feeling in you that you're accomplishing something, so that as well is another point that was properly implemented compared to the last one where we didn't have that particular sentiment, so to speak. Also, the story, the way that it unfolds and it ends, gives me hope that they are going to go into certain directions in the future, which might be positive for the whole storyline, considering that we have Baal and Diablo to appear as the other two prime evils. So yeah, I reckon it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to conjure in that particular situation. One thing I need to mention before I'm done with the story, Blizzard is using this they pronoun bullshit in order to address your character, where you can clearly see it's either a male or a female character, not to mention you pick the fucking gender when you're creating your character. I don't know what's with that fucking bullshit, but it's so retarded. As if they were lazy to just record two different lines by switching the pronoun, but they just push that they bullshit like, you know, the most of the fucking industry now. So get rid of that stupid fucking shit. Nobody wants it and nobody cares about it, and it's just messing everything up. Next point I would like to raise is all about Skovos. Skovos looks really cool. I like the vibes that I'm getting from that particular place or the map itself. It's very reminiscent of ancient Greece and the way the characters speak and all the Amazon stuff and the environments and all that. So I reckon it hit a good spot there as well. In comparison to Nahantu, I think it's much better area, generally speaking, because Nahantu was always kinda dark, a lot of jungle stuff. I don't know, I always kinda avoided that place like a plague, other than going to the main city in order to do undercity stuff. So in my book, that's another improvement compared to the previous expansion. Next point is all about the classes, or should I say class, because I already played Paladin for the last 2 seasons, so Warlock was the thing that was kinda new. And I reckon it's okay. The whole using demons to fight demons gimmick is interesting, and from the start I wanted to play as a summoner, because what better way to utilize your abilities to fight demons other than using demons, or rather literally throwing demons at demons in order to kill them. I think that's an amazing gimmick, and for the first 40 levels I kinda had fun with that particular build. Then I shifted to another build, which is Dread Claws, and that thing is shredding like there's no tomorrow. It really gives you that feeling of immense power that you're kinda releasing onto the world. which is expected because every single new class that was released was overpowered as fuck. So in that sense, no wonder most of the people are going with the Warlock class in order to capitalize on that power to make the game more enjoyable before either finishing it or switching to another class. It's always about that particular situation with Blizzard where they're kinda utilizing it, the power that is, in order to attract more sales. I suppose that's nothing that we haven't seen before. I'm just hoping that the overall power balance, when you look at the other classes and what they can bring to the endgame, is not going to be overshadowed by this new class. In a sense, the same thing can be said about the Paladin, because for the last 2 seasons, Paladin was OP as fuck, and they definitely didn't nerf it because you need to sell the fantasy. Because again, we are getting 2 new classes, and if people bought the Paladin first, or rather pre-ordered, they experienced it before, but there are other people who need to play it, the game that is, so they need to keep those power levels in check. Standard marketing procedure and stuff, that's basically what it is. Just jump on the wave, try both classes before they get nerfed, or the builds that is, and you're gonna be okay. Also, while we are doing the story stuff, we get introduced to fishing. Many people were asking what is this fishing all about, and to me, at the moment, it's just a gimmick. Obviously, I tried it to see how it looks like, how it feels like, and it's very simple minigame. You cast your line with one button and you pick the fish or rear in the fish with another one. Basically catching it with 2 buttons, it's amazing. Not too complicated, and definitely it can be served as a chill activity when you are kind of resting between all the activities that you are currently doing, especially when you're engaging with war plans. As far as I can see, you have these 7 areas and you have 7 distinct fish that you can catch, and in between each fish has like 5, 6, or 7 categories. So you get like common redfin, and then you have legendary redfin, mythic redfin. You get the idea. You can also see this in the achievement tab. So basically it's grindy in order to get the fish, but not that much. I suppose you can always spend a couple of minutes just casting the line and enjoy yourself a bit while you're waiting for, I don't know, world boss or any other timer. So it's okay, nothing too complicated. I reckon if you are achievement hunter, you definitely enjoy this. If not, well, just do the basic stuff, because one of the seasonal journey achievements or tasks requires of you to catch several fish, so there's basically that. I mean, they had to put it in seasonal journey, otherwise nobody would do it, because that's what seasonal journey is all about. Now, the final aspect of this particular first impressions is going to be all about the endgame. I won't go too deep into it because there's going to be another video, me reviewing the whole endgame as a thing. So I reckon stay tuned for that, but general first impressions about the endgame are positive. The addition of war plans as a mechanic, as far as I'm concerned, is really fucking good, because finally it gives you something to constantly do. And not to mention, it engages you with all the other activities that the game has. I reckon they figured that out in Season 11, where we were having all those blessings and whatnot in order to visit different activities like Undercity, for example. And probably they were like, okay, people like this, so we might as well do it. I reckon it was before conceptualized and they just showed a preview with Season 11. But again, that was the whole idea. You have to sort of force people in order to engage with the content that you created, otherwise what's the fucking point? Mostly what we were doing was doing Helltide in order to farm materials for the bosses. Then you did a pit in order to unlock your glyphs, and ultimately maybe you would do nightmare dungeons in order to get Obusite, but that was always overshadowed by the infernal hordes, because there was no point going in nightmare dungeons when infernal hordes are the best possible source of Obusite. So in that sense, I think war plans are amazing. They have a lot of potential, especially with those nodes that you can pick in order to modify every single element of the activity that you are engaging with. And I think that essentially is going to be something that is going to be a staple for the future seasons, but also expansions in the Diablo series. Another thing that I noticed is how everything is kind of streamlined. you are not really suffering a lot when it comes to engaging with the activities. It just goes very smoothly, jumping from one activity to the other. Usually it's just one click of a button. For example, if you want to do a nightmare dungeon, you can just do it and the system is going to assign you a random sigil, but you can use your own if you want to complete that particular war plan segment. So that's also very cool, which essentially gives you lots of variety, but everything is just accomplished in a smooth manner. Other aspects of the endgame that I liked are obviously the new systems that we have been introduced with, which is Horatory Cube, where we finally can do some proper fucking crafting, and the addition of item sets. Item sets are especially interesting because they were added as a subsection of your gear without actually having to equip the item in order to activate the set item bonus, but rather using this new system which is called amulet or talisman or whatever the fuck, which you're basically just slotting in runes in order to get all those bonuses active. I think the system is great and can be utilized for future leaderboards in order to, let's say, target specific builds so people can compete with each other, because right now everything is just cluttered together and you're competing as a class rather than a build. That was a thing in Diablo 3, and I hope that it will make a comeback in Diablo 4, if not next season, then maybe in 2 seasons or something along the lines, because again, in Diablo 3, it didn't really matter if the build was underpowered or not, you just wanted to be the best with that particular build. Again, I will talk more about Endgame, but first impressions for, 10, 15 hours that I spent time in the game performing all kinds of Endgame things were actually pretty good. And for the first time in a long time, I have a desire to play this game more because the war plans, they're just so damn good because they finally have that hook that can grab you, and very aggressively, might I add, in order to complete all the content that the game has to offer. One final thing that I would like to point out is the game stability, and it's a weird one. I was recording most of my footage using OBS, and I don't know what's happening. I didn't really do extensive testing, but I noticed when I was using OBS to record footage, there was a lot of stuttering, there was a lot of rubber banding. I actually crashed 2 or 3 times, and when I wasn't using OBS, it was okay. But then the next day when I was using OBS to record stuff while I was doing Endgame, there were certain problems, so I don't know. What I could say is 100% there are still server issues that I have encountered in the previous season, and apparently it is moving onward as the game is progressing in terms of them adding new content. So I suppose they still need to fix that in order to provide even smoother experience, which is one of the reasons why I definitely wouldn't play hardcore character, because I died so many times because I got rubber band or stuff froze or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely not worth it to have a hardcore character in this particular environment. So yeah, if you were thinking maybe skipping on buying the expansion, I would say don't. It actually feels really good and it can definitely hook you up more than your usual expansions are doing so, particularly because now we have things to strive for. And that's essentially what was lacking in Diablo for all these years. And as a final remark, I would definitely say that we are getting a spirit of Diablo 3 in Diablo 4, which is always a good thing because even though that game had certain issues, it still was a very good game. And it is very fucking sad that we waited, almost 2 years in order to get to this particular experience. But it is what it is. I reckon Blizzard is going to be a bit smarter for the next Diablo game when it comes to designing stuff, because if you are going to make a game and remove everything that your prequel had as a good thing, then you're just fucking stupid. So to summarize this first impression, I would say Diablo 4 is finally out of beta, and you could see this as a Diablo 4 1.0 version. It should have happened much sooner, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's all that I can say as my first impressions. Like I said, I'm going to have a longer video describing stuff about Endgame and what works and what doesn't work, or rather where I see they should change things. But other than that, yeah, just go jump into Diablo 4. It feels really fucking good. Also, if you like what I'm doing and making, feel free to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good shit. It's definitely helping the channel. There's no two ways about it. And that's it from me. Until the next one.